welcome back to Max UFO News. The format for the show is rather different now, and I know this must seem pretty strange to some of you regular viewers, but just imagine how I feel. I've been digitized into this fellow. As usual, we have quite a few news items and sightings to get through, so it's straight over to Alice with our lead item.
Thank you, Mac. It has been 25 years to the day since a live interview with a shadowy guy named Dennis changed everything for America's most secret military base. Dennis turned out later to be a man named Bob Lazar, who claimed he worked at a secret facility built into a mountainside just south of Area 51's main facilities. The story started a UFO stampede that continues to this day. Bob Lazar has tried to put the UFO tales behind him and has been discredited in the eyes of some critics, but it is a story that simply will not go away. George Knapp from 8 News has the story.
What better way to unwind after a long day than a glass of Groom Lake red wine from the Ailey Inn? Maybe spend a few minutes staring at the paintings you picked up at the Area 51 art show, while perhaps listening to the Bob Lazar music video. The story that Bob Lazar told 25 years ago this week has gone around the world many times over, inspiring books and TV shows and movies. Who knew that Indiana Jones' warehouse is at Area 51?
That sound you hear means Agent Black will be waiting for you.
You're too nice.
Another repository of Area 51 lore is the exhibit at the Atomic Testing Museum. While in town recently for our interview, Lazar took the tour.
I guess I have to get a picture of that, too.
It was a little surreal watching Bob Lazar as he saw tape of the first interviews he ever gave about his time working at S4. Later, as we plowed through boxes of paperwork about his claims, Lazar reiterated his preference that people don't believe his story.
Look, I am not out there giving UFO lectures, producing tapes. This is not a business of mine. I am trying to run a scientific business. And if I'm the UFO guy, it makes it really difficult. It's to my benefit that people don't believe the story.
These days, Lazar and his wife operate a scientific supply firm in Michigan. He's received media coverage because of the odd stuff he sells online, but not everyone has made the connection to Area 51 and the stampede he started back in 1989 when he told of working at S4 south of Area 51, where he saw flying saucers so advanced they had to be from somewhere else. This is a model of the reactor he says was able to generate its own gravitational field, powered by what he called Element 115.
Barry turned on the reactor, which was a flat plate and half of a basketball essentially on it, just a hemisphere. And once it was activated, you could not touch the sphere. You put your hand on it, and just like the like poles of a magnet, exact same type of force. He had a little golf ball, and we dropped it on it, and it never hit the sphere and fell off, and then we threw it at it and it rebounded and knocked the ceiling tile out of place. But it was that alone is something amazing. Look, that can change everything we know today.
The story exploded among UFO researchers and just as quickly led to questions and denouncements. The I-Team confirmed Lazar had previously worked at Los Alamos National Lab, but we also reported his claimed education credentials could not be proven. UFO experts, including physicist Stan Friedman, also dug into his background.
I say, here's a bright guy. I did a lot of checking on him. I find a lot of things didn't check out. That doesn't mean I disagree with everything he ever said, or that he was a liar all the time. It means that I can't buy the story as presented. What all he did out there, I don't know.
Lazar says there's no end to the questions, and even if he could prove he worked at S4, someone would say he must have been the janitor. So he generally avoids the topic altogether.
Oh, you want some of the fame. What, the fame? There's no big dump truck dropping money off at my house every Thursday night. I'm not out for any fame. I really have better things to do. Generally, people have to twist my arm to come out and do things like that. As you know, you're the arm twister.
Those who were around him at the time the story broke or took the trips into the desert to see the craft fly above S4 say you really had to be there.
Did you see that move it did?
There's a MUFON moron that calls me every once in a while, and he says, well, you don't still believe that guy, do you? And I say, I lived it. The whole 2 years, it was fantastic. It was one of the greatest times of my life.
He wouldn't go through the trouble to make up a story to lie to people and then perpetuate that lie. Bob has no idea who won the Super Bowl and the World Series last year, do you? I mean, he's busy doing scientific stuff and in the Bob Lazar world. He wouldn't waste his time perpetrating a lie on anyone.
Look, I know what happened is true. There's no doubt, period.
Alien implants is a term used in ufology to describe a physical object placed in someone's body after they have been abducted by aliens. Claimed capabilities of the implants range from telepresence to mind control to biotelemetry, the latter akin to humans tagging wild animals for study. As with UFO subjects in general, the idea of alien implants has seen very little attention from mainstream scientists. Derrel Sims, the alien hunter, has over 38 years of field research and has focused on physical evidence. This led to his groundbreaking discovery of alien implants. As a former military police officer and CIA operative, Sims has a unique insight into the alien organization, which he believes functions similarly to an intelligence agency. The larger-than-life Texan was recently interviewed by the CTV News team.
Alien abduction right here in Houston. One local man says it really happened, and he's made it his life's mission to track down extraterrestrial life.
Tonight, Local 2's Owen Conflenti talks one-on-one with this self-proclaimed alien hunter who has a big following and even has his own cable television show.
It's a cover-up.
Derrel Sims is an alien hunter, a larger-than-life Texan living near Houston.
I suspect that they're living on massive craft.
Who walks around in a cowboy hat and coat in the middle of the Texas heat.
They seem to love fear.
He claims to be the world's leading expert on alien abductions. His fascination began as a child.
My first interaction with these entities was at age 4 in Midland, Texas.
And after nearly 4 decades tracking extraterrestrial events, Sims is now a Hollywood star, appearing in a cable TV show called Uncovering Aliens.
So I use my skills as an investigator, as a former cop, a combat cop in the military and a private investigator.
Today he works with a team to investigate reports of alien activity, looking for proof.
You usually find marks on these people, cuts, bruises, scratches, lumps, bumps, and things that don't make any sense.
So what does an alien look like? Sims says he's seen one face to face.
The entity was actually outside my tent. It stood about no more than 3 foot tall. Then there's another being that looks like a reptile, and then there's a human being, like being. It's not a human. He stands about 6 foot, 6.5 tall.
Yeah, it might sound crazy, but Sims says it's serious, and no one is immune. He claims 1 in every 4 people is abducted by aliens, and the victims come from all walks of life.
You would be shocked, stunned, and amazed to find out who my list of clients are. There are scientists, intelligence people, NASA scientists, and others who are abductees. So it doesn't make any difference. You don't have to be a genius.
So what puts you most at risk for an alien event? Sims says his research points to a pattern.
Many of the people that are being taken that turn out to be abductees, the killer bee types, are Native American, Indian, Irish, Celtic.
If a relative was abducted, you're more likely to be a victim too. Sims believes the phenomenon runs in families.
Go talk to your family privately, grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, very privately. You're going to be stunned with what you're going to hear. Because if it's happened to you, it's in your family lineage.
This online questionnaire will help you figure out if you've been taken. Still not a believer? Sims says he doesn't care.
Well, let's just say I'd like to capture one of them.
His hunt continues.
I still have a lot of work to do. I'm an investigator. Finding the evidence and doing something with it is my business.
In Houston, Owen Conflenti, KPRC Local 2.
The popular TV show Fact or Faked Paranormal Files follows a team of investigators who review various photographs and viral videos of alleged paranormal activity. If a particular piece of evidence is deemed intriguing enough to warrant further investigation, they set out to recreate and explain the sighting. Former FBI agent and lead investigator for the show, Ben Hansen, was recently quizzed about his belief in all things UFO and alien on the Australian Channel 7 morning show. Unfortunately, as you will see, the hosts of the show took the subject far from seriously. Ultimately, this will only serve the further erosion of the subject's credibility in the eyes of the Australian general public as a whole.
Paranormal investigator Ben Hansen is here live in this show. G'day, Ben.
How's it going?
Great. How did you go from being with the FBI to now I want to say chasing aliens. I'm sure that's a...
Not very scientific, huh?
Simplification, but...
The X-Files unit called me up and said, you know, we'd like you to go out and participate in this TV show. Just kidding. No, it was an interesting transition, but I left the door open to go back because I really liked doing the law enforcement stuff. But a show was coming together and they needed a concept. I had kind of an informal group and I was a real geek. I mean, I was into this stuff for a long time.
Okay. Well, what's the most convincing thing, the most mind-boggling bit of evidence that you've ever seen where you're just convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that something's going on?
I have seen a lot. With ghost hunting, for example, I was in a cemetery in Indiana, and I witnessed in front of me a pile of leaves. There's no wind whatsoever. I was hearing footsteps, and every step I would take, I'd hear leaves crunch. And I was like, there's got to be something going on here. So I took my flashlight, got on the ground, and I watched a pile of leaves depress in the shape of a footprint, completely right in front of my face. I've heard audible voices. I feel like, you know, when you fill out this pre-employment things now about your mental health state, do you ever hear voices? I have to do that. I heard a full sentence spoken into my ear.
Do you drink?
I don't, actually.
I had to ask. Let's go onto the internet, because does that help or hinder your cause and trying to get to the bottom of things? Because so many things can be faked, and I'm a bit of a skeptic, I've got to say.
A bit?
Well, maybe
You're
a lot.
like the president of the Skeptic Society.
Yeah. Well, you know, our show Fact or Fake, we wouldn't have it if we didn't have these viral videos. And the unfortunate thing is that it's so easy now to use CGI and manipulate videos. So what we do is we break them down and interview the witnesses, and we try and replicate experiments to see if there's any way it could be done. So it has made it a little more difficult.
Okay. A few weeks ago, Bill Clinton spoke about aliens on Jimmy Kimmel's show. Let's have a look at what Bill had to say.
If you saw that there were aliens there, would you tell us?
Yeah.
You would? Oh, you're trying to give me a hint that there are aliens.
No, I'm trying to tell you I don't know.
Oh.
But if we were visited someday, I wouldn't be surprised. I just hope...
Yeah, so clearly that's a serious forum and a serious interview. But it's rare to hear the US president talking on the subject, right? So what was your take on this?
You know, this story was very, very interesting because a lot of presidents have asked into the topic and have looked into it, but I did a 36-minute analysis of his body language. So if you break it apart, you'll see parts where he asks him in that one section, he says, would you tell us if there were aliens? And he shakes his head, yes. And then he says something about, you know, well, there's different worlds and all this. There's a high probability. He says, oh, so you're telling me there's a good chance there are aliens? And he says, you said there are aliens. He says, no. But he shakes his head, yes.
So what you're saying is Jimmy Kimmel's an alien? Is that what you're saying?
He was very stressed. Clinton was very stressed during the whole interview. We don't know why exactly.
Okay, you've investigated so many different paranormal events. A quick line on what you believe in relation to the following claims, if we may. UFOs, do they exist?
Definitely. The phenomenon is real. I've seen at least 3 unexplained craft doing just extremely advanced things. I don't know who's flying them. I could say that much.
Okay. Number 2, aliens have already visited Earth in the shape of Monica Lewinsky. No, I take that back. Aliens have already... are there aliens here?
You know, I would have to give it a probability of, let's say, 95%.
Whoa!
Yeah, the people that I have talked to, my own experience of seeing things, it would be hard to dismiss it all as military.
Okay, what about ghosts? Real or imagined?
You know, as a kid, I did not believe in ghosts. I was told they don't exist. And now, as an adult, I've seen so many things, I believe in it more so than I did as a kid. Ironically.
See, once we hear that aliens are here and that ghosts exist, then the whole Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti thing is like, whatever. There's nothing to it. Is that real?
Well, Yowie, Bunyip, and all
nothing,
the guys.
Right? Nothing compared to ghosts.
You know, I've never had that experience myself, so I'm kind of out there with that. But I've had many credible people tell me very, very compelling stories, and I have to say there's probably something to it. I just don't know what it is.
Are aliens showing a geographic preference?
For good location.
If you're coming from, if you're travelling a long way, where are you wanting to settle down? The States, Australia, Europe's nice this time of year. Is there a place where there is more paranormal, I'm being serious now, more paranormal activity than other places?
It's worldwide, of course. We do have hot spots. Certain places you can go and do what we call sky watches. I sell night vision. You know, a lot of people go out there and try to film this stuff.
That's kind of desert type places. Or is that just in the movies? I'm making
yeah,
it up,
deserts. Deserts are great. We have a lot around Nevada. Arizona is a big hot spot. Here you guys have, you know, Pine Gap. You know, the secret bases and stuff like that.
Have you ever met anyone who's been probed by an alien?
I've met people who say they have been.
They come and suck you off the desert, and then they... Isn't that what happens?
I've met people who say they have mothered 12 hybrid alien children.
See, that's what I meant.
Yes.
It wasn't such a good... It was a good question. There's a woman who's mothered 12 hybrid alien children who's currently hosting a morning show in America.
Sorry, next question. Did you believe her?
You know, I will read people's books. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but from the outside of it, you got to have some proof of that. I want to see one of the kids brought in. I want to, you know.
That's what we want, proof. So no one has any actual, where's the proof?
Oh, there's a lot. There really is. I mean, if someone gets into this, there's trace evidence of over 3,000 different landing cases, 100 million different witnesses, you know, so there's a lot of evidence.
Okay.
You want to see the bodies, is what you're asking.
Kylie's very much a touchy-feely alien
but when you
kind
say
of girl.
physical evidence, what exactly do you mean? Like high levels of a certain element on the ground after a landing?
Exactly. Trace elements of things that shouldn't be here.
But that can be scattered by someone, surely. That can be put on the ground.
Well, it's like the crop circles.
Yes.
You know, like I don't think all of those could be easily explained because of the amount of time that these people have to make these and then scatter that debris to make it look legitimate.
Do aliens look like they do in the movies, or are they more like sort of Mork from Ork sort of concept? Do they look like, you know?
Well, I've never seen one that I know of, but
you've spoken to people. There've been 100 million. So, like, has anyone drawn a picture?
Do you guys remember the movie Fire in the Sky? You watched that? And, some loggers were in Arizona, and the guy gets taken for 5 days. True story.
Probed. I told you.
Well, he doesn't claim to be probed, but what you don't learn in the movie is that he had interactions with blonde-haired, blue-eyed humans as well. So people do talk about both.
So aliens are human after all.
You wouldn't know. Basically, if they were here, you wouldn't know, you know, if they're sitting next to you, to some accounts.
That's a worry.
The longer I'm talking to Ben, I would not be surprised if he's ripped his head off right now.
I've been accused. I've been accused of that.
No, I'm like looking at you thinking there's something...
If you go on YouTube, and you'll see people will put on videos of my eyes changing, and like reptilian. He's a lizard.
No, I'm serious.
Well, I've been working with you for 7 years, and I've been waiting for you to do exactly the same. So it's weird. Like, I believe they're here. Ben, good to chat to you, mate. That's really interesting stuff.
Just take a good look.
No, I can't look at him now.
My eyes changing.
I can't look at him now.
I'm telling you, there's something there.
Ben the Prober Hansen is one of the headline speakers at this weekend's Paracon Paranormal Conference at the very spooky Old Maitland Jail, which is where Mitchell Coombs took some morning show viewers last week, and everyone totally freaked out.
True.
All the details on our website. It's going to be a really interesting conference, and thanks for taking the time to join us today.
You're welcome. There's still tickets available, and come check it out.
Mate, we're nearly done. This is the last chance to rip your head off. Really,
just unzip my skin and reveal right here who I really am.
William Shatner once stated, "There is no doubt there is life out there. The mathematics of it lead you to that absolute conclusion. In my mind there is no doubt that the universe teems with life in all its forms." Mr. Shatner recently gave a short interview to Larry King about a new novel he is writing, and yes, you've guessed it, it's all about UFOs and alien abduction. Although the novel is to be a work of fiction, Shatner seems to have a genuine interest in the works of Professor John Mack. Mack had a worldview inspired by elements of spiritual and philosophical traditions which hold that people are all connected to one another. This theme of connection was taken to a controversial extreme in the early 1990s when Mack commenced his decade-plus study of 200 men and women who reported recurrent alien encounter experiences.
A novel about UFOs?
Yes.
Why the hesitation with you?
Well, because the hesitation is this. Do you remember a man by the name of Johnny Mack?
Johnny Mack, why is that?
Johnny Mack was a psychiatrist, tenured professor at Harvard, was given by a friend of his the opportunity to interview some of the people who said, we've been abducted by UFOs. After 200 interviews, he concluded they were right. He lost...
They were abducted.
That's his conclusion. And he almost lost his tenure at Harvard. His wife and he lost his wife and children over it. And he walks out of the door not too long after that, and he's hit by a hit-and-run driver and killed. His conclusion was UFOs are on another plane, another reality. They may not be the meteors we see that we think are UFOs. They may be in microphysics, sometimes the act of observing brings about the event. Are you aware of that?
I got it. I'm not aware of it.
Right. So there may be a photon of light that doesn't exist, that suddenly comes into existence while you're examining it, and then goes off in another direction and ceases to exist. There's the principle being that there is such a mystery of what we puny human beings have no knowledge of. There are other universes. We think that the limits of light is what there is, so that the universe is 13.5 billion years old. And what happened before 13.6 billion years ago?
So you're writing a novel about this?
Well,
what are you doing?
The concept that if the UFOs may be products of another reality, that leads you into a mystery.
So you're writing about it?
Right.
Do you think there are UFOs?
Why are you hesitating, Bill? What I didn't see Johnny Mack ask in the readings that I've done, maybe I got more to do, is what are they doing? Why have they abducted the secretary over at Universal and examined her and taken an egg and fertilized it and got a hybrid?
Why haven't they abducted a president?
That's the question. Why don't they just display? You know, which is the question you ask about God. Why doesn't Jehovah is here? You know,
where?
Well, so why don't they display? And what is the intent? If they're not displaying, if they're hiding, and they get this guy in a swamp in Florida.
Why do they go to Casper Springs, Wyoming?
Right,
and they don't go to New York City?
Because Casper has got a capital C. You don't know. That's crazy. Why do they do that? If there's an intention, if they've had the intelligence that there's little green men, little gray men with big armament here. So are they a product of us? There's a mystery here.
Yes.
When a mind like Johnny Mack can say, this happened, there's too much community in these people who've said they've been abducted, there's too much emotional baggage, something is happening. What is it? That's the question. So do UFOs exist? It depends on what you mean exactly.
are. It turns out Vancouver leads the country when it comes to spotting mysterious objects up in the sky.
The vast majority of UFO sightings are easily explained, but as St. John Alexander reports, local sky watchers, I can see that behind us,
Looks good.
are still convinced there's something out there.
What is that?
It's an unidentified flying object.
Mathematically, it is possible.
What the heck is that?
The greatest minds say it's perfectly rational.
I can't identify it.
Planets just like Earth are being discovered, and celebrities staking their reputations on it.
You believe in them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
In fact, millions believe there is life out there. Some say they've seen evidence.
Why do people persist in seeing things that supposedly shouldn't be there?
Hey, this is seriously insane.
The Canadian UFO Survey, compiled by a team of scientists, reveals there were 1,100 UFO sightings in Canada last year. And this is the city with the most activity. 116 just last year.
But over the past few years, Vancouver's been the place to be to see a UFO.
I don't know what they are, but they're definitely intelligent. This is a Yukon night vision device.
Charles Lamoureux says he spots unidentified flying objects frequently.
It's coming closer to Cypress area, which is where I'm pointing at right now.
In 2013, he captured what looks like a saucer with a hollow center wobbling over the North Shore. 2 months earlier, another object seemed to respond when Lamoureux shined a light in its direction.
Thank you. And why wouldn't they not come here? You know, we've got a beautiful planet, and I truly believe that we've been contacted many, many times already. And
we don't have that evidence, and yet it remains a possibility.
There it is.
The survey finds the average sighting lasts about 13 minutes, and most UFOs can be easily explained. They're satellites, planes, or the military doing exercises. But 10% remain a mystery, just like the sudden appearance of crop circles.
This could be aliens, I don't know.
Turns out this was an elaborate hoax in California. But still unexplained, many others around the world, including these perfectly made shapes in northern BC.
Some form of energy that is similar to microwave energy has affected these crops.
They're, hiding themselves. They're not coming around. They're hiding behind trees. They're making themselves look like satellites. They look like airplanes sometimes, but they're not airplanes.
Polls show most people believe there is some form of intelligent life somewhere out there. But when it comes to sightings near Earth, suddenly they're skeptics. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
This mysterious picture right here has a viewer wondering if we are not alone. Erica Skittle snapped some pictures of ominous clouds as storms rolled through Colonial Heights yesterday, and in one of them, Skittle saw something she just couldn't explain. Take a closer look with me. She says 6 lights arranged into 2 triangles peeking through clouds outside of South Park Mall is what she saw. Is it a UFO? We sent senior reporter Wayne Koval to find out tonight.
Many of us think nothing of grabbing our cell phones to take some quick pics, and that's exactly what Erica and her mom did Wednesday evening. But what they captured on their iPhones not only surprised them, but many on the internet.
It really caught me off guard because, I didn't know what it was.
It was there in the picture, whatever it is.
Walking out of South Park Mall Wednesday night, a storm was just rolling in.
It was kind of like a really eerie, ominous kind of looking thing. So we were just like, oh, let's take a picture of it, because I take pictures of everything.
When Erica looked at her photos, though,
it looks like there are 6 little lights in a hexagon, and I don't know, it just looks weird.
You start looking at the pictures. What's your first thought when you look at a picture and you see that?
I was speechless.
So Erica took to social media to figure out if they just photographed a UFO.
I posted the picture on Twitter first, and then I put it on Instagram, and then I put it on Facebook. And then it blew up on Twitter and everywhere.
Matt Elliott is one of those who reposted her pictures.
When I first seen it, I thought that it really was aliens, and it was pretty cool looking, so I decided to see if anybody else had posted anything about it or anything like that, so I went ahead and put it on Facebook and asked.
And like Erica, dozens responded, even more today.
Social media is very powerful.
But in the end, could the UFO be something much different? We took the picture to a professional photographer.
It seems to be a reflection from one of the lights in the parking lot.
Sean says lens flare or reflections isn't uncommon even for professionals, but Erica adds if she gets another interesting picture on her phone, she won't hesitate to post it online. Wayne Koval, CBS 6 News.
Yeah, I figured it was just a reflection. At least that was my initial thought.
She ought to just
Never
keep
know.
passing around. I bet somebody else out there has something to say about it.
Digitize it, look into it.
All right, phone calls and emails flooded our newsroom tonight after an interesting sighting in the sky tonight.
Yeah, you and I both took a lot of those calls. Moani Kalanabaro did as well. She's standing by at the Weather Center, and I know you've been calling around, Moani, for some kind of explanation tonight.
We have, guys. You know, at first we were answering the calls thinking these were clouds people were actually talking about, but when the pictures like this one started to come in, check it out there, it was obvious to us that these were not clouds. National Weather Service here in Honolulu actually told us they think it was actually a flare. And keep in mind, this wasn't only seen over Oahu. We had calls that came in from Molokai, pictures that came in from Maui. We spoke with Pacific Command, and they say there's no unscheduled activity on their end, nothing unusual going on there. We also talked to HPD and Maui Police. They too flooded with calls and concerns from residents. So far, authorities say there are no FAA jets missing. Many of the calls, guys, that came into our newsroom say it looked like some sort of aircraft.
I actually thought a plane might be falling or dropping, so I pulled over and was looking carefully, and it was in the sky. I looked at it for about probably 10 minutes. I could see that it was extremely high up in the sky, and it wasn't like anything I've ever seen. Very bright white light.
Bright white lights, we've heard that over and over tonight, so the mystery does continue. If any of our viewers out there have pictures of it, send it in using your KITV mobile app. You can also post on our KITV4 Facebook page, and we'll continue to make calls through this newscast. We're going to solve this thing together, gang. We'll talk about any new findings a little later in the show.
In other news, several hundred would-be Mars colonists have just had their hopes and dreams dashed. The Netherlands-based non-profit Mars One, which aims to establish a red planet settlement beginning in 2025, announced Monday, May 5, that it had sliced its pool of potential colonists from 1,058 down to 705. The remaining astronaut candidates now advance to an interview round with Mars One's selection committee. Quote, "We're incredibly excited to start the next phase of round 2, where we begin to better understand our candidates who aspire to take such a daring trip," unquote. Mars One Chief Medical Officer Norbert Kraft said in a statement. They will have to show their knowledge, intelligence, adaptability and personality. All components of Mars One's settlement are slated to reach their destination by 2021.
Aerobat. Sounds like something that would be here on our news deck. It's a Geobat, a two-person flying machine. The company behind it reports it'll take flight, actually will take flight, in 18 months. That company is Aerobat Aviation. The CEO says he's trying to raise $250,000 to help fund the project. He's doing that on the internet. And you can get in a ride for yourself once it's finished. Jack Jones is the inventor of the Geobat, and he is going to join us now, if I can get him up here over on my own bat. Voila. How you doing?
Hello, Shepard. Thanks for having me on.
Tell me about this product. I would want to go to space, so tell me about it.
Well, what we have here, which appears to be the world's first viable saucer-shaped aircraft. And essentially what I've done is solve the center of gravity
You should say Earth's first, because we really don't know what's happening in the rest of the world, but I feel you. Go on.
But nonetheless, what you're seeing is a three-winged circular planform body. It's never been done before. History is littered with failed attempts of trying to get a perfectly circular aircraft to behave itself in the air. And it wasn't until the military visited me that I fully understood what was happening.
The military visited? Tell me about that.
Well, senior engineer Rick Foch, Naval Research Laboratory, located in Washington, D.C., visited my house for a short demonstration. Now, after just a few minutes of flight of two of my airplanes, he wanted to go talk to me. And I can honestly tell you that conversation lit me up like a Christmas tree. he confirmed what I only dared think about, that I had solved the dilemma with regards to flying a circular ring.
So you're going to put this thing up in the air in 18 months, and who can get up in the air in it, and how do they do that?
Well, you can go to Indiegogo.com, and if you'll just search for Geobat, you'll go right to it. There's different venues for donations, and if you want to ride in it, I believe you pay $1,000.
And where can you go?
Where do you go? What do you mean, where do you go?
I don't know. I'd like to go to Vegas or maybe down to the Caribbean. Where?
Well, once we get up and running, this thing has a massive fuel capacity. And on top of that, you're going to be in one of the safest aircraft ever built, because it's circular, it's totally connected.
All right, I'm gonna watch for you in 18 months. We're gonna take a spin. Nice to meet you. We'll be right back.
Well, that's all for this month. If you have enjoyed this episode of Max UFO News, please be sure to click the like button below. Max UFO News is put together each month with a budget of $0, is distributed freely, and is 100% non-profit, so please remember this should you decide to leave a comment. From both Alice and I, goodbye, and as always, thanks for watching.
Trust is going to be the true currency of the 21st century. Not the dollar, not gold, not silver, not the yuan, not chocolate. It's going to be trust. That is the real currency in the world. And without it, not enough money can fix your problems.
The government begins an urgent investigation. They rule out desert dust, blood cells, and algae. Now, the researchers think they're close to one of the greatest discoveries in the history of science.
This is potentially an extraterrestrial organism.
Whatever's in the blood rain is alive. Yet, unlike all known life on Earth, it's replicating without DNA.
And I know a lot of us out there have amazing stories, and we need to share them. You really need to share them at this time, because now is the time. By you sharing your stories, it really stimulates and causes ripples beyond what we can see. And it changes the discussion over time. And ultimately it will lead to one thing. It will lead to everyone being on one accord, on one same page.